It is absolutely a blast to be here at Heaviness. We have, of course, Brian Slagel, founder of Metal Blade Records, celebrating 35 years, and Trevor from BLACK DAHLIA MURDER, celebrating 16 years with a brand new record that everybody's saying already up there that might be your best yet. What are your first impressions of like seeing people listen to your music? Is it a little nerve-wracking having them in front of you listening to it?
No, it's mostly awesome. I felt strongly like they'd like it, and just seeing the reaction feels amazing. I'm like high on life right now, basically, here. So, what can I say? I'm having some beverages. I'm celebrating. This man's here. Fucking, we did the book panel earlier at Rough Trade for Brian's new book, For the Sake of Heaviness. And I'm just trying to revel in this time where everything is going around so awesome. So, holding tight.
What would you say is harder, writing a good metal album or a good metal book?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm not a musician, so I can't say anything about writing an album. Honestly, it wasn't that hard writing the book. It was kind of fun. It took a long time to do it, but kind of going back and looking at the stories and kind of remember them was kind of cool. So I would say much harder to write a metal album because you actually have to learn how to play, and that's not easy because I can't play anything.
But I think it's hard to live interestingly enough to have a book that's worth reading. So it's different. You know what I mean?
You might be right there, maybe. It's possible. It's possible.
What was the hardest chapter to write? I mean, as far as the memories, maybe some like dark times that you went through to try to like, salvage yourself in the metal world.
It wasn't, honestly, it wasn't that difficult. Well, I did use a cheat sheet. My cheat sheet was looking at the Metal Blade releases every year. Because, your memory gets a little foggy when you get older. But it wasn't really that hard. It was an interesting process to go through, for sure. I kind of felt like but, so far the reaction for the book's been great. So we didn't spend a lot of time on, like, the newer stuff. We spent a lot of time on the 90s, which, people thought were the dark times for metal. But really, for us, were pretty good. So hopefully we kind of show, like, the 90s are pretty good. And I encourage everybody to go listen to 90s metal music because it's really good, even though, people thought it wasn't.
Do you remember the first time you met Brian and vice versa? You guys remember that moment that you guys met and kind of, like, clicked?
Well, he had come to see us, I believe.
In Phoenix, maybe?
Well, you came to Detroit to see us one time.
I came to Detroit, but I think the first time I saw them was in Phoenix at the famous old Mason jar.
Okay, yes.
And one thing I remember more than anything else that night was he took his shirt off and he said, "I have the smallest nipples of any person out there." So it's like, wow.
That stuck with you.
Like, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
True. I still say that. A dime can cover one of them.
So yeah, that was my first indoctrination to the Black Dahlia Murder was Trevor's small nipples.
When you came to Detroit to see us, we were on this bill with The Haunted, Shai Hulud, Cataclysm, and I remember thinking, man, we really suck just now, guys. I turned around, walked to the bass drum, stepped on my glasses, and broke them. Oh. As the icing on the cake.
I thought it was a great show. It's funny because, when you're in the audience, and you know this too, you'll see a show and you'll think, that's awesome. And you'll go to the band afterwards like, oh, we sucked tonight. It's like, really? Or it could be the opposite. We're like, it was all right. We thought we were awesome.
Perception's a funny thing.
But that Detroit show was really great. And I have a funny story about that. So I was in Detroit and the show was in downtown Detroit. And, I had a rental car and I'm driving to the gig and I made a wrong turn down a one-way street. Cops in Detroit pulled me over. So you know what you did? I go, I'm sorry, you're from California. Gave them all my stuff, and they're like, no worries. It's right up the road. They were super nice. Everything you think that Detroit isn't, they were super nice. And then the show was amazing.
How did Grow Up in Detroit influence your, music writing, kind of like your vision, especially once you stepped out of Detroit and kind of looked back?
I think it was like being entirely isolated in a way. We were the only people that wanted to do what we were doing there, it seemed like. We were just really huge nerds that found each other, like exceptionally huge nerds for a band even. We weren't cool in the scene in any way. They didn't want to have us around, and so we started thinking about how to get out of town. And go to another town and maybe fool them.
But wait, then you become successful and you're still in Detroit.
Yeah, it's ironic, right?
You ever thought about moving maybe to New York, LA, San Francisco, Miami, somewhere else?
I'm starting to come around to it. I might be next to you on a bar stool again without a microphone.
That's a good point you bring up. What else do you have to do outside of music? Obviously, this question is for both of you. Like, when you're not on the road, busy, thinking about music, what do you like to do to just kind of like, pass your time in a, maybe in a other creative way that they don't know about?
I don't have anything creative necessarily, but I play, I like retro video games. Nintendo, especially, is a ongoing obsession throughout my life. Weed. This guy does a lot of different things.
Well,
Hockey man.
Yeah, I'm a sports guy, so the best therapy for me is like Sunday NFL football. I'll just sit down and watch all the games, and then NHL hockey. I'm a huge hockey fan, so when the hockey season starts, that's my 3 or 4 hours a night of just I'm gonna watch games and just kind of that's my or go to games. That's my therapy.
How many hockey jerseys do you have?
Over 3,000.
He likes it.
Just a little bit.
Collecting is a nightmare.
Dude, fanatic, dude. Like,
Yeah.
whatever he's into, fanatic. You know what I'm saying?
Well, forget
He
the
goes hard.
Forget the 3,000 hockey jerseys. I also have 3,000 hockey games on VHS videotape.
How many records in your collection about?
So I have about 10,000 vinyls and close to 10,000 CDs, and I don't know, maybe 2,500 cassettes.
How about you? You collect anything?
I have CDs, probably about 4,000, largely metal overall. I still collect CDs, the deadest format of all, but I love it.
For now.
For now, it'll be cool as soon as it's, I don't know.
Dude, cassettes are coming back,
Exactly.
so you never know.
Hey man, I like cassettes.
Speaking of sports, what is the correlation between sports and music, in your opinion? Being, I feel like a huge metal fan and huge sports fan. What is that correlation?
Well, I think certainly football and hockey are violent sports or aggressive sports. And that kind of, speaks to me in terms of aggressive music. And hockey especially, you got blades and fights and aggressive and fast and speed and skill. All the things you get in metal, which is why when you go to hockey games, there's tons of metal being played at the games. Because all of those things, I think, correlate to music. But it doesn't have anything to do with music. So for me, it's like, I can relax and watch this and not be stressed out.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because some people watch sports or play video games with metal going on. Do you have like the soundtrack or the game? Do you have the soundtrack or the play-by-play, or you guys put metal on while you're doing those activities?
Sometimes I'll cross the worlds over, but Nintendo music is a special thing to me. It's awesomely bad, It's awesome. So, but I remember listening to Megadeth and playing Road Rash 2 for Genesis and stuff. It happened.
When you go to these sports, especially football and hockey, it's all metal. Like some of the sports teams, like, the Penguins were my favorite team, and so many teams that all they play is metal music in between, when the face-offs and all that stuff. So for me, it's like perfect. It's like, here I am in a live hockey game enjoying the sport, and they're playing metal. How much better could that
penetrates
be?
their world
I know.
and gets them pumped, hopefully. So that's got to feel pretty good.
Dude, some of the most amazing times is going. A friend of mine does music for the Washington Capitals, and they play Amon Amarth and King Diamond or Black Dahlia Murder. That's surreal. Like going to an 18,000 seat arena, sold out hockey game, and they're playing our music. That's insane.
And you don't bring it to him? He just kind of like...
No, they were fans, and I kind of learned about it on the internet and then became friends with them and stuff. So it's great.
That's cool, because people would think that you bring it to them because you're such a big fan. You're like, help me out. But no, they're fans.
Totally. And then, of course, when I go to a game, they might play a couple extra songs, but it's all good. All good.
Have you ever kind of like a shout out like, Brian Slagel's in the house?
Nah, maybe. Actually, I will say the LA Kings, which is, my hometown LA team. They've done that on the, not really like a shout out, but they'll do it like, Brian Slagel from Metal Blades here on the, little board there. So it's a little surreal.
And obviously we're dealing with really hard times all around the world. So it's obviously a good time for metal once again. What do you think is going to happen from the next 5 years with Black Dahlia, as far as like, the fan reaction and kind of like, where are you guys going?
Hopefully, just keep this up, man. Growing bit by bit, working our butts off, playing tons of shows, more records, just Black Dahlia business as usual, 100% all the way, all the time.
Soundtrack to people's escapes. That's the best thing about metal. It's so much going on always, not just now, but that's why we are metalheads, because it kind of, whatever we're facing, we're like, yeah.
Entirely an escape for me to play it, to listen to it, The collection aspect of it, everything that goes into it is like an escape for me. I enjoy it tremendously.
And where do you see everything going, especially with technology? As we said before, tape is coming back, vinyl came back. Where do you see, let's say, 5-10 years from now, what's going to be happening?
I think the music genre of metal is going to be really big. If you look throughout history, whenever there's been a Republican president in the U.S., metal's been really big. So we've got 3.5 more years of that. So it'd be good. I do think, though, we're kind of moving. Look, physical stuff, vinyl and CDs are not going to go away, but clearly moving into the streaming services thing, too. So it all looks good for me. And look, bands like Black Dahlia are making some of the best records they've ever made, or Metallica, Slayer, Cannibal Corpse, on and on. So I think the next 5 years is going to be really bright for metal.
Anything else you want to tell the people that are watching?
No.
Not really? Support Black Dahlia.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
He's too shy, so I'll say it. So thank you for supporting Metal Blade. Thank you for supporting Black Dahlia Murder.
Yes.
Thank you for supporting all of metal. We really do appreciate it. He's just too shy to say that. So.
You heard the man. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
man.
Trevor.
We're done. Thanks a lot.
Cool.